Yeah, I can hear you great. I hope that this isn't too echoey. I did not get headphones in time. I was just getting dinner because I'm postpartum and people are still bringing me dinner.
People are amazing. No, there's no echo on my end, so I'm good.
Okay. Awesome. I'm going to latch really quickly.
Oh, you're so good. We're keeping this super chill, mamas.
Right, exactly.
It's super real.
Okay, so, all right, let's figure out this question thing. I haven't done this before, so you might need to walk me through it.
Totally. So at the bottom, there's going to be a little question, a little box with questions. If you click on that, we can go through each person's question and answer them as they come up. So hi, guys. Come on in. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited to do this, to have our followers get to see us hang out. And, you know, it was really fun for me to go back through your story because, you know, we recorded this interview like a while back. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to relive it and be like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. That was so much fun. It's been really cool.
Yeah, no, I re-listened to it this morning and I was like crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what a cool experience. So I'm honestly just excited. We got a lot of really great questions. And I think our hope is that just like, if you're thinking about home birth, I see you're asking the right questions. Like, listen to this. Ask either one of us. We've both been through it. And like, let us help you make the right decision for you. And like, know that we're rooting you on no matter what you do. Because ultimately it's about, what do you feel comfortable with? What do you feel like, you know, is best for your body? And we're here to show you something that could be really great.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the whole goal, is just making sure that people understand that this is an option. Because, you know, like you said, well, the good thing about your situation is it's not like you had a super negative experience, at least with your first. I know the second one was kind of a crazy story, but, you know, a lot of moms end up choosing home birth after they have a hospital experience that they're like, that was not ideal. And so that's what drives them. So this idea for me of like, you know, I just want everybody to know that this is an option. You know, like this is an option from the beginning. And yeah, so I'm super excited. But are you ready for me to get into the questions?
Let's do it. Let's fire. Do you want to just go back and forth kind of thing, or you take one, I take one, or we'll kind of just go.
Let's see. So some of them are going to be directed directly at you. Perfect. So how is this similar or different to other births of yours? Can you see that?
I can't see it, but I wonder if the audience can see it. Can you click on it? And then that question should come up on the bottom. Normally,
it popped up. Anybody in the audience? Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah. First question is, how was this similar or different to other births of yours?
So I would say similar in that, well, let's start with how it's different. So first, it was a home birth. I had both my other two children naturally in a hospital. My first was a total text birth, 14-hour labor. My second was a super fast 3-hour labor. First experience in the hospital was pretty good, except my post-birth was not very good. Second, during labor, post-birth was not amazing. So for me, home birth, a huge motivation was I really wanted to feel like I was advocated for, which is why I switched to home birth. So biggest birth switch as I went, all of them were natural, but one went to the first two were hospital, the second was home birth, and then I really feel like the main difference this time around is there was such a peace and calm during the labor, and I really felt like I was able to like be a lot more intuitive on like what my body was doing, where in the hospital it was like, do this, I'm there, get hooked to this monitor, we need to check your blood pressure. It's just kind of like I'm on their schedule, where with my home birth it was like, what do you need, girl? Like, what do you need? We're here. And it just helped me to relax a lot more. And I wonder, I mean, I think it's typical that third borns can be more chill. And maybe those of you guys who are on your live comment, you know, to say that's true or false. But
I hear they can be the wild card.
Yeah. So for my Everett, he is the most chill, go with the flow. And his coming in was so peaceful. It was painful, but it was very peaceful. And I think that just goes to show just how my midwife took care of me through the entire process. The labor process was very peaceful. You know, her advocating for me was amazing. So I would say that was the biggest difference. I had a doula this time around. I did belly binding this time around, and immediately after started working with a physical therapist as an online physical therapist, which I'm happy to share about. And what else? I did placenta encapsulation with Caitlin. So I felt like this third time it was kind of like I'm going to do all the things to make sure my recovery can be best. And it was by far the best recovery as well.
That is amazing. That's super awesome. Yeah, and you know what? So for me, when I was thinking about this, I had a home birth with my first and my second. And of course, like the first birth, well, not of course, some people have different stories, but a lot of times, your first birth is longer, it's more tedious, and mine was definitely that way. I had a malpositioned baby for sure. Even though I was doing chiropractic care, it just, my pelvis was just hadn't been used that way before. But one thing that I thought was really cool with my second birth was I made it my goal to be super super present while I was laboring. And I wanted to kind of be in the moment, especially during pushing, because with Janie, with my first, when I was pushing, it was total fetal ejection reflex, which is totally fine, but I just feel like she just shot out and I didn't really have any control over it. My body was just doing everything. So it was kind of cool when I was looking back at my birth video, even you could hear me saying like, be present.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and it was a slow entrance, and Carrie, both of our midwives, she was totally hands off. She was just like watching from kind of almost the other side of the room. It felt like like me and Thomas and Janie was there, so that was really cool. It's neat how you can even improve on a home birth experience. So
totally.
Yeah, all right, cool. Let's hop on to the next question. All right, Amber said, what did you do to prepare your home and space? That's a good question.
That is good. So I know for my midwife, our midwife, we both used to say midwives, Carrie came, I want to say, was it did she come visit at 38 weeks? Was it?
37 usually.
37. So she came and she brought this awesome birth kit. So she had this birth kit of all the medical type things that she could need. So there was that. She had a list of things to purchase if I didn't have in the home, but I don't really think there was just a certain type of paper towels.
Viva paper towels.
Yes, Viva paper towels. And then some type of older sheets for the bed just in case there was a little mess. But she really provided most of everything. I think I really only had to buy paper towels, and she had a list of everything I could have needed. And then she had me go get a prescription from a doctor that she works with here locally of just a couple things I might need postpartum, I'm sorry, I'm having a total brain fart.
Pitocin?
Thank you. Pitocin.
And misoprostol, or I can't remember if it's Methergin or I think it's misoprostol that they use now.
Yeah, I didn't have to use any of it, but she had it just in case, you were overbleeding or, a couple things could have happened. We're going to have it there just in case, but I didn't need any of that, thankfully. So it really was just her birth kit, some home supplies just in case, some prescriptions from the doctor, and I think that's it. Am I forgetting anything?
No, I think that's it. That's kind of cool about the way that Carrie does it because and it's fine to do it either way. There's this really good place for any of you who are planning a home birth and your midwife doesn't provide the everything for you. There's this website called In His Hands. And so my previous midwife did a similar thing where she had a list on inhishands.com where you could just go through and click her list and get all of your supplies sent to you. But yeah, it's cool. It's nice to either way have it to where it's Mom doesn't have to do any thinking.
Yes. Yeah. Just follow the list. We got enough things to think about. Just tell me where to go, where the list is. So right. I felt as prepared as you can. Oh, and she did drop off a birth. What's the word I'm looking for? A birth tub.
Yeah.
Yes. Just in case we did, and I was in the tub for a little bit, and I know that you were as well. So there was that too. Yeah. But that was all. Just kind of ahead of time when she came at our 37-week appointment.
And what about so one thing that I know that a lot of moms stress out about, and I'll be honest, it's one of my big things too, is that idea of, oh my gosh, my house is too messy to have a home birth. If I turn my camera around and you saw my office right now, you would lose your mind because I'm losing my mind looking at it. But what about that idea of, my house is just too messy for a home birth? What did you do to prepare your home in that sense?
So I will say for me in general, I've got 3 kids, so I'm not perfect, but I try to quarterly, I do a haul of my house, anything that we haven't touched in the last quarter is out, donated, recycled. So I think, just anytime you can just do like simplifying stuff in your home, I think that really helps. So I think that helps our general environment. But I don't know. I kind of feel like when you're nesting before, you just you make your space okay. I'm not saying our house was clean by any means, but I knew that in general, it's like a hospital room is really small. You don't need a ton of space to have a baby. I mean, you really need like your body. You need just like a spot, So yeah, I kind of just knew ahead of time that I was going to labor primarily in our room and in our living room, and those areas. Like, we don't have a ton of extra clutter in our room, so that wasn't really an issue. And then the living room, we do have some of our kids' toys, but we kind of have certain bins that we organize our kids' toys in. So it was kind of like, if there was things on the floor, I just have bins that I would have thrown the toys in. And it really, to me, that didn't cross my mind. I will say the thing I loved about our midwives is they just kind of like, I had a doula as well. When they left, the house looked like they never even came. It was just like that. Like, I left to a clean house, and I think generally with those just other women, they're gonna pick up any like things they see, that would be in the way. They're gonna organize it. Like, I wasn't blowing up our tub. They were taking care of everything. Like, truly, my focus was just like baby. I find, and for most of my labors, I'm kind of more like within myself. So I almost don't even I'm not aware of like what's happening around me for me personally. So I didn't really feel that was an issue, and I feel like they did a good job of making sure our space was set up in the way that I needed it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really cool. For my first birth, it was around Christmas time, and so I really was like, my big thing was, okay, the mantle needs to be set for Christmas, and my Christmas tree needs to be up, and then this baby can come. So that was like the main preparation that I did for that. And then this time, I really wanted twinkle lights like around my little birthing corner. So I did a few things like that. But I really seriously, I try to keep my house clean, but it's really not easy for me. I'm not a tidy person by nature. So I felt like I was getting ready for my house to be shown at any moment. Kind of pretending oh, our house is on the market, trying to keep it clean. But it wasn't like that. There, of course, Tom, they come in and Thomas has some underwear, on the bathroom floor. But that's the cool thing about midwives is they're normal people too, and they do not care, even if there is, some clutter. Who cares? That's silly. So for all of you who have that question, I know that I get that one a lot. It doesn't matter. Midwives don't care if the house is a little untidy.
Your baby doesn't care either.
Exactly. Yes. Awesome. All right. Let me get that finger out of your mouth, Lillian, and go to the next question. Okay, Amber said, what was your favorite part of your home birth experience?
It's crazy to me how quickly you can switch from being in the most pain in your life to then experiencing the greatest joy you've ever felt. I guess you experience joy obviously in any birth, but there was just something about that this time around with Everett being stuck for a while and then being in this position where I was frustrated. What do I got to do? Telling my midwife, what do we got to do? And she's like, you just got to do this. You just got to push or we're going to the hospital. And just how quickly it, that perspective switched from I'm in pain to I'm going to hold a baby here in very soon. So let's do this to holy smokes. This is the hardest thing I've ever done to wow, I am holding a baby. And just that flip from pain to pure blissful joy is something I don't think I will ever forget. And I think my labor was totally through the night. So 6:30 p.m. till 4 a.m. How exhausted I was to then still have the energy to have that joy was pretty memorable for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You get that adrenaline at the end and it's like you didn't even go through it all.
Yeah, you're did that actually hurt? Yeah, it did. It really did.
Yeah, you can look back on it in a few minutes and be like, okay, yes, that was pretty tough.
Yeah.
But there's so much joy. You're right. And I still, I'm almost 5 weeks out, and I still feel like I'm riding the oxytocin high. I love the fact that stays around for a long time.
And it has to, because you're getting up in the middle of the night. You're just all your whole life is around this little human for the first few weeks, and I think it just helps make it so blissful because it's like pure. It could be pure exhaustion, you know, like, and it is, but in a good way.
But there's so much like snuggliness to it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I even missed that, just listening to my story again, you know, after you posted it was like, oh my gosh.
I remember that.
Wow, that's crazy. It's already gone, you know, and it feels like it just happened.
Yeah, don't tell me that.
Yeah, sorry. Just keep snuggling. Keep enjoying it.
Let me have my high. Oh, birth high. I'm still riding mine too. So amazing. Mamas love hearing this. Oh,
yes, just keep riding it. There's no such thing as too many snuggles. Never.
Keep riding it. I love that. Okay, so did you have any inhibitions when trying to make the choice to have a home birth?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why the first 2 times I had natural births in the hospital, because I was like, what if fill in the blank? You know, what if my baby dies and it's all my fault? Like, it's on what it all came down to. So, like, for me at that point, it was just like asking questions. Like, I remember one of my biggest questions was Kara was like, what's your success rate? You know, and, you know, her sharing like, hey, I've been doing this for 12, 13 years, can count on my 1-2 hands how many times we've had to go to the hospital, and most of the time it's not even that big of a deal, you know. And just her calm confidence was like, okay, this like, people have been doing this for thousands of years, like, it's only been the last 100, not even, that people have been in hospitals, you know. So just remembering that this is a normal, natural thing, and I'm working with a trained professional really helped. But my biggest fear for sure was like, what if the worst thing goes wrong? But I'm only 10 minutes from a hospital too, so like, either way, I wasn't going to be in the hospital. Plan B was the birth center, and either way, at the birth center, they were going to have to wheel me over to the hospital, which would have taken 10 minutes anyway. So it's like,
right, exactly.
It was no different for me, so I might as well have just had them at home. So
that's one thing that I can't remember where I heard that from, but I was like, oh gosh, that makes so much sense. It's like, even if you are in the hospital, when something goes wrong and like you have to go, say something goes wrong and you're going to the OR, like, there still is like a period of time for preparation. Like, you have to get prepped, things have to happen. And so midwives, if it is a situation of like, okay, we've got to come to the hospital and it's serious or whatever, they still, like, they call in advance. They're waiting for you. They're there ready to go. So yeah. And like you were saying, what Carrie said, it is so rare for a super, super emergent situation to happen, just because midwives are so in tune with what normal is and what is supposed to be happening, that when it's anything outside of that scope and outside of that spectrum, they are on it. They know, like, that is not supposed to be happening, and we are going to need to do something about it now before it becomes an issue.
exactly.
So, yeah, very
totally
cool.
agree.
Love that. All right, let's hop to the next. Let's see.
Hey friends, I see you guys hopping on. Feel free to say hey if you're a fellow home birth mom. So good to see you, Joanna, Amber, Vicki. What's up?
All right. Did you know you wanted a home birth from the beginning? And did you ever have any doubts?
So, like I said, like I actually was born at home. So 1992, born at home. My mom had all this at home. And I remember telling people, like, when people would say at school, like, what's one weird fact about yourself? I'd be like, I was born at home. And people are like, well, that's super weird. You know, it was like not normal to be a home birth kid. But even coming in, I was just like, again, I could never do that because of the worst thing could happen. So I would say no, I didn't think so. I wanted to, and I think it just came to having a negative experience really that second time around, to like, there's got to be a better way to do this thing. I think, like, yeah, there's just got to be a better way, and I'm willing to explore my options now at this point, and I want to really, like, do this well. And then that's when home birth really came an option. And then hearing so many other moms' stories, I'll still say I was nervous. I wasn't just like, oh, now all of a sudden I have all the answers. But hearing that other people do it really empowered me to go forth and do the thing.
I love that. That's like one of my favorite things about our interview, and I'm so glad you brought it up just now, was like the fact that other people, other women in your circle, they were able to have such a strong impact on your decision. Like, holy cow, does that not inspire you guys who have had home births? Be sure that you were telling people. You might seem crazy to some, but you could change somebody's birth outcome, like Jasmine's was changed. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, and like honestly, if any of you guys were any of those moms who encouraged me, like I'm so grateful because I really think that's why my postpartum experience was so good. It was just because moms were, you know, brave enough to share and also genuine and kind enough to tell, hey, I'm willing to share my birth story. Here's a book I read, or here's this, or I loved this about it. You know, definitely try this, and that was so empowering to me.
Awesome, I love that. All right, let's see. Next question is from Allie. Okay, how did you respond to family members and friends who might not have been on board?
So it's funny, like I remember my mom just being like, my mom who had me at home just feeling like this is the only way, but she never through those 2 hospital births never made me feel pressured that I should have a home birth, but I knew that she was really excited once I did do it, and she was a great person to kind of bounce things off of when I had questions. But I had some people who were a little weird about it. But I guess something that's been really a cool journey for me is all growing up, I really struggled with what people thought about me. It's always been a struggle of mine. But I think through being an entrepreneur and through just being someone who's just done things differently my whole life, I've kind of learned to get over it. So for me, I definitely had family members who were like, what? Why are you doing that? But at the end of the day, it's like not their life. If they want to go to a hospital, that's cool. Like I think at the end of the day, it's like what I think as a mom, you know what's best for you and your baby, and we should not be shamed if you want to have a C-section, if you want to have hospital birth. I think it's important for you to be educated and know your options. But at the end of the day, you do what's best for you, and I think it's our job as women to clap for each other and be supportive and know that people, when they say things, they're just projecting their like insecurities or doubts on you, and it's not a reflection of your poor decision making. Like, you do what's best for you. And yes, I definitely got people thinking I was super weird, but whatever. My baby is fine and healthy, and I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I feel like, comes from just a lack of knowledge. Like, they don't know that home birth is safe. They don't know that, hey, there was a study that came out recently showing that home birth is just as safe, if not safer, for low women. So a lot of that is just like, we got to get this education out there so that people understand it's not voodoo witch doctor stuff. Your midwife isn't going to come in and, like, on a broom. It's medical. It's super trained. So I love that. Great question, Allie. And then another one going along with that, she said, and Dad, was he supportive from the beginning?
Yeah, I would say, like, the cool thing about my husband, so I'm huge into the Enneagram. Anyone who's on and want to drop your Enneagram number below, my husband is an 8. So that is the, wow, why is my brain slipping here? He confronts me a lot. He's the confronter, basically. So, like,
maybe my husband's an 8 too.
Yeah, it's just like, why this? Why this? Like, they build their relationship through confrontation. And so he was like, why do you want to do a home birth? Just like, why? And just like definitely ask the prodding questions. But for me, that was a great way for me to take the time to research it and like back up why I felt this so much in me. But the cool thing about him is he's like, it's your body. Like, you've done this successfully 2 other times. Like, you know what to do. You know what's best for you. I'm here to do whatever. But I actually kind of appreciate that he was like, why do you want to do this? Like, why this time? And I had to really, bring the facts, and it made me research. And he was definitely like, okay, like, if we're going to find midwives, like let's ask them the right questions, make sure we feel good about this. And then after bringing the knowledge to him, he was like, I mean, the numbers show this is just as safe. And he was totally on board after I really took the time to research and make sure that this was right for us.
That's really cool. I love that because, like you said, it kind of made you stronger in your beliefs of like, okay, I do want this. Like, this is what I want, and I feel comfortable with this, and here is why. Yeah, that's really neat. And I would say from my story, Thomas, when he met me, I was already, like totally into the birth world. So it was kind of like this is who I am, and I hope you understand that there's going to be a lot of placenta talk around our house, and I'm having a home birth, and, like, we're going to co-sleep with our kids, and so it's really funny because at first he was like, okay, yeah, you're, like, kind of weird, but obviously he liked me, but now he is, like, the biggest. he's like more of a mouthpiece sometimes for home birth, I feel like, than I am. Like, he's out in the streets. He's out, like, preaching it to the nation. Like,
Totally.
it's really cool how when a dad experiences the home birth and, you know, sees how calm and peaceful, and then it's like, oh, wait, I didn't have to sleep on a really uncomfortable hospital couch. Like, they really get on board.
Yeah, we both got to lay in the same bed and just cash out after, you know, Everett was born. And he was like, dude, this is so much better than that crappy hospital bed. And he's just as much my advocate through the whole process, 100%.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. That was a good question. All right, let's see. Next question we have. Jess said, would you do it again?
Yes. I always tell people, I wish I was brave enough to do it the first 2 times. Everything happens for a reason, but I wish I would have been brave enough the first 2 times to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. When I look at this question, I'm kind of like, I wouldn't mind doing it again, like, next week. Like, can I do it for somebody else? Like, this really, I don't know. There's something about having people come to you and just dote on you. Like, there is nothing like being doted on that immediate postpartum. And if you guys haven't seen the picture that I posted from yesterday on my feed, it's my midwives sitting at the foot of my bed. I'm like latching on, my daughter latched for the first time, and they're just like looking at me like, and it is my favorite picture, and it totally encapsulates exactly what that experience of home birth is. Like, people come to your house and love on you.
Yes.
Like, you've never been loved on before, and they believe in you. And so, I mean, just for the pep talk, I wish that they could come do that all the time.
Seriously. Come back, Carrie.
Where are you? Oh, awesome. So, yes, she would do it again, and I would too. All right. Okay, Mercy, I might totally, is it Mercy?
Yes.
Awesome. Mercy, how can I go about it? Doctor or nurse, where do I start looking?
So for me, I guess the steps I took was I first, like, my brave first step was I just put on Facebook, like, best home birth book. And I got a ton of comments. In fact, anyone who's like, can you tag me in that post? I will go back and find it and tag you, because it was just, to me, an overwhelming confirmation that, like, I can do this. Just had tons of moms sharing, read Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, or I did a birth and here's my experience. So just ask your network. Like, on social media, you'll be surprised at how many support there is. And then the next step I took was I just Googled midwife near me on Google. I found 2 that I jived with. I had a list of questions. I don't remember where I got them. Ina May has questions in her book that you can ask. So Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, read it, Google midwife. She's got some questions in there you can ask. I went and interviewed her, just like, because I wanted to make sure that we jived, you know what I mean? She was going to be bringing a baby into the world, doing something I hadn't done, I'd never done before. I wanted to feel that trust. I went and interviewed. I really enjoyed her. And then from there, she really walked me through all the necessary next steps.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a perfect way. Yeah. Especially if you happen to be in our area in Greenville, there are a few midwives. And I always think wherever you are, like, if there are several, please go interview multiple, interview all of them. And I think that, that the midwives feel that way too. They want you to be with the most comfortable fit. So that's great advice. All right, let's see. Next question. Okay. Let's see. So I think I don't know if these are 2 questions. I don't know. This says, I hemorrhaged really badly after my second, and my doctor has to take steps to prevent it. Is that like an add-on question, or is that?
So I think she had like 2 pieces to it. So we'll address the first part and then maybe the second or something like that.
Sure.
So I know she's talking about having large babies, and then let's talk about hemorrhage. I'm at the end of the day, I'm not like a medical person. Talk to your doctor. I think at the end of the day, you got to do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But I would.
Here's the first part of her question is, I fear since I have large babies that get stuck and are born sunny side up and then hemorrhage after. So
yes. So I would say, like, the cool thing I loved about reading Ina May's book is she shares a lot about, like, things that have happened. It wasn't like every birth was perfect. And she shared, like, one thing that can happen. I can't remember the exact term, but it's very common that a baby's shoulder can get stuck. And that can be really, really dangerous. for a baby, but she shared this like technique that she figured out how to basically get the baby unstuck, and she had more of a success rate at getting babies unstuck than the doctors in hospitals did. So, you know, like, I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is you have to be working with a professional that you truly trust, and doing the research, asking moms in your area, and going in and asking some of those questions you have. Like, if you're like, hey, I've hemorrhaged, can I have a home birth? Go talk to a midwife. Hey, I've hemorrhaged before. Hey, I've had large babies. Do you have experience with this? How do you deal with that? And for me, when I asked some of those questions, like, I felt really confident in my midwife. My son was 9 pounds, 13 ounces. My other two babies were 8'10", so he was a big boy, and he was stuck for 5 hours. You know, like, all signs probably point to, like, in a hospital would say your baby was, like, too big for you to push out, but, like, I feel like God designed the body, and, like, he created this baby inside me to come out, and he was gonna come out. Yes, there are occasions where emergencies happen, but I think those are super, super rare. And a trained midwife is gonna, just as Caitlin said, they're gonna see that before, and they're gonna do the necessary steps to make it happen. But I just don't believe the too big myth personally, because I had a big baby, and he even was a little stuck, but he came out totally fine.
Yeah, Robin, I love these questions. Like, I have so many things that I want to say, so I'm going to try to not say everything. But, okay, so the first thing is, with a large baby, just like Jasmin was saying, that typically is not a concern because your body is prepared for that baby. But when it comes to, like, positioning, so your babies are born sunny side up, if you're working with a midwife, they are typically going to be there helping you get that baby in the right position. The difference between a midwife and like a typical OB is, you know, OBs aren't very hands-on. They don't have the time to be. And so a midwife, when you're going into their office, they have their hands on your belly, palpating you and figuring out exactly where the baby is, what position they're in. They can figure out all of that stuff. And so they can tell you, like, these are the exercises that you should be doing to get the baby in an optimal position. Another thing is, you know, when you're working with a midwife, a lot of them, and even if they weren't to recommend it, you know, chiropractic care is huge. But our midwife works really closely with local chiropractors, and she wants us to go see them. She's like, this totally jives with what we're doing. So that helps a lot. When it comes to hemorrhaging, a few things about that. So the first thing I will say is, yes, it happens when you bleed too much, like, or bleed more than you would want to bleed. That happens to the best of us. My first baby, I bled a little bit more than my midwife was happy about. She had herbs that she was able to give me initially. And then, of course, like Jasmin mentioned earlier on, we also have been given a prescription for Pitocin, which you know is used to stimulate labor in the hospital. But after, like, for use in home birth, it's actually used for the placenta, like to clamp down the uterus. Sorry, my brain's like all over the place because my baby's farting right now. But anyway, it clamps everything down. It clamps the uterus down so that stops the bleeding, and that's generally plenty to get your body to just kind of stop doing what it's doing. But preparation-wise, what I did this time, and since, like I said, last time I had a little bit too much blood, I made a tea from Nourished Kitchen. You guys got to go Google Nourished Kitchen pregnancy tea, and you will find it. And it's actually, I think, what is that called? It's called an infusion, technically. I think she calls it a pregnancy tea, but you brew it overnight, and so it's actually called an infusion. It's like medicinal grade. But it has red raspberry leaf, oat straw. It's called Nora tea. So nettles, oat straw, red raspberry leaf, alfalfa, all these different things in this certain way. And holy cow, guys, I did not have like a speck of blood. Like, my daughter, but when we were preparing her, she's 2.5, when we were preparing her for the birth, I was like, no, you know, sometimes moms can bleed, and that's okay. Like, that's a normal thing, though, blah, blah, blah. So the baby comes out. She's, like, looking in the water, and she's like, where's the blood? Like, I was told there would be blood here. And I genuinely believe that it's from that very specific tea and doing it the way that she recommends. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely a lot that you can do beforehand. And I'm trying to scroll back up because I saw Christina was on here and she had two really, really good points. Oh, I skipped it. But Christina, I was actually thinking of you when I was reading this question because it's about big babies. And yeah, Christina says, well, first she said, I had a mild hemorrhage with my first two, who the first one was 8'10" and the second one was 10'6". So big babies right there. After the third, who was 10'9", I had essentially no bleeding, not even postpartum. See, yeah, so there are definitely things you can do. And then she also said about OBs, they are surgeons. That's it. Most forget they're actual doctors. There you go. Amen, Christina. All right, let's see. Anybody else that I'm missing? I want to make sure we answer everybody's. Okay, now we've got some more questions. That was a great one, though, Robin. Thank you for all of that. Did insurance cover your doula?
Mine did not. So I would say probably most. I don't know. It's definitely going to depend on your insurance. I'd say most of the time they probably don't. I know we did use our HSA account, which is money you can put in pre-tax. Which in a sense you're thinking of like you're putting in your money 30% off to like save. So we were saving all throughout the birth. So we did use our HSA, but insurance did not cover it for me.
Yeah, and I will say, so if you do happen to have like a health share account, so like we have Samaritan, if you have something like that, and I think there are a few other ones like Liberty something, but they oftentimes will cover. So Samaritan covered. If you have like the normal Samaritan plan, they cover an entire home birth. Like you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Yeah, because they know that like, hey, this is actually way, way cheaper.
Yes.
So let's cover it and let's encourage people to do that. And they actually will cover for like a decent amount of a doula fee. If like they'll at least put money towards it if they don't cover the whole thing. So stuff like that's a really good option. I do feel like some insurance companies are kind of getting on board. Like I know Cigna, Cigna is going to cover home birth now apparently. So We're hoping that things are going in that direction. And Amy asked, what is the tea called again? It's called Nora tea, but the specific recipe that I use is from Nourished Kitchen. And if you just Google Nourished Kitchen pregnancy tea, it will pop up. And you can start taking it during, like, at the very beginning of your second trimester. And it tastes amazing. Like, oh my gosh, it's got rosebuds in it. It's so
I wish
good.
I would have known that, but
yeah, girl.
You learn a little bit every time.
Next time.
I told y'all there's no more baby coming out of his body.
Whatever you say. Okay, cost comparison to a hospital birth. So in the same vein.
Yeah, so for my home birth, it was $2,500, and my doula was $850, and we all paid out of HSA. At least with every insurance I had, and my husband is like an engineer, he was an engineer with a quote unquote good corporate job. Our deductible normally was about $2,500 anyways. I know that's not everybody. So it was about the same, but I remember looking at hospital bills from the hospital costs, and it's like, between basically 10 and 30 grand, depending on all the things that could happen, So it's definitely more cost effective. It does depend on your insurance. But I really didn't see a huge difference. Actually, I remember on our insurance with our second kid, our deductible was like, we had a super high, we were like $8 grand. So we paid like $8 grand for my son in a hospital. Yeah. But here, it was like, I guess a little over $3 grand. So
yeah. And that's what I was going to say. Even out of pocket, if you're paying out of pocket, at least in our area. So this is not, I don't know about other places, but it's usually like $4,000 to $4,500. So even if you were just paying it on your own, a lot of times it's less than what you're going to pay for the hospital bill with insurance. So
right. Mm-hmm.
Definitely a cheaper option, especially if insurance would get on board.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, Samantha, who helped deliver?
So we both had a midwife named Carrie. She's local to Greenville, and she was great. She was absolutely fantastic. Like she said, 13 years of experience. She was phenomenal. So I would recommend her to anyone in the Greenville area.
Yes. Oh, Christina said a lot of doulas, myself included, will do barter or payment plans. Student doulas will do reduced rates too, and I do know some insurances will cover doulas as a reimbursement. So that's great information. Thanks, Christina. And then I'll answer that question with who delivered. That was me this time. Hello. I was like super wanting to do it myself, and I am really, really grateful that I was able to have that experience. And it's so cool that I had a midwife that was like, yeah, you got this, you can do it. In fact, I actually had both of my midwives. My midwife who caught Janie was able to make it in the last minute too, thanks to Christina, who watched her daughter and grandparents for her.
Oh my gosh, go girl.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. I really love you for that. So yeah, so they just like were around the birth tub watching me catch my baby.
Dude, you're amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if the next one will be that magical, but
for me, every time I'm like closing my head, just like, get her out! So I had to catch her, but that is so freaking cool.
And speaking of Christina, she had asked, what was one thing that was not how you expected it to be?
So Everett, I labored from 6 p.m. to like 11:30 p.m., so about 5 hours. And when my midwife checked me, I was at 8 centimeters. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like this baby's going to be out in 2 hours tops. Like I felt like I got this kind of thing. And he was stuck at 8 centimeters for another 4+ hours. So that, I really did not think that it would take as long as it did. So I think in total it was a 9.5-hour birth, but it was progressing like it was going to be, you know, like a 6-hour birth. Right. So that was a little unexpected.
And Henry's birth was really short, right?
Yes.
How short was his?
His was 3 hours. Like, yeah. So Ellie was 14. Henry was 3. I'm like, what, is this baby going to just like, this next one going to slip out of me? So I would say the time, I didn't expect it to be longer, but it was.
Yeah. Yep, that's the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next question is from Grace. How did you deal with negativity, criticism, or ignorance regarding home birth, which we kind of discussed?
Yeah, I would just say, like, I think the best thing we can do, I find when these things happen, is I just like to ask questions. So, like, oh, you know, like if they're like, well, it's really dangerous to have a home birth. Like, oh, that's interesting. You think that. Like, where did you read that from, or where did you hear that from? And when you get back to the source, typically it's like a friend of a friend told someone that it could be 3 years ago. Like, there's never like, yeah, it's never in facts. And I think so for me, like, to quote Jim Gaskin, Jim Gaskin's quote on home birth is like my favorite thing to watch, especially after having home birth.
You decided to have your baby at home? You wanted it to die?
And yeah, it's just like, unfortunately, sometimes we live in a world where people, it's like a hearsay thing. And, you know, just ask questions, like genuinely try and hear what they're saying, but just say, you know what, like, it's cool if it's not for you. I had a lot of, and just be honest. Like, I've had a lot of moms in my circle do it who have had a great experience. Like, I did research myself and found it was really safe. It was actually a lot of times safer than a hospital birth, and I feel it's right for me, you know? Yeah. And that's their prerogative if they don't want to do it, and it's yours if you do, you know?
Yeah, amen. I just got a low battery warning, so I'm going to try to get through these.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, we can rapid fire.
Okay, let's see. What was your partner, or no, we did this one. Was your partner always on board, or did they need convincing? What was the best part about home birth, if you can narrow it down?
The peace. The peace is so different. I mean, in a hospital, there's the bright lights, there's the monitors, there's the hook you up. Like, I remember with my son, I came to the hospital, you know, that was my 3-hour birth. Like, we were in the hospital for less than an hour. And it was like, they were trying to triage me. And I was like, y'all, get me on that bed. This baby is going to shoot out of me. Bright light, people trying to close my legs. It was just like, this is not how it's supposed to be. We're in my home. I was in my home. The lights were dim. I just felt relaxed and calm. And then when the baby came, I fell asleep or just like rested and enjoyed it. And they took care of me. They brought me snacks. It was just a much more peaceful experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. How successful do you think a VBAC is?
Obviously I've never had a VBAC, but I remember in Ina May's book, she talked a lot about this. Like, she had done countless VBACs. And to me, it seems like just being in with the technology and stuff we have now, the way midwives are trained, it doesn't seem to be an issue.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, they say, really, you know, having a vaginal birth after cesarean is safer than having a second cesarean. So that's something interesting to think about. And, one of the issues with VBAC is that depending on where you are, midwives, that's not within their scope of practice. Some midwives, I've had home birth HBAC women on my podcast. So obviously midwives do that. But you have to find a provider that would be willing to, but also you can work with hospital midwives that are going to be far more supportive of that VBAC scenario. So finding the right care provider, whether that is a home birth or if you do need to be at the hospital, just finding a good care provider and you can totally rock a VBAC. Let's see. Not a question, but you look good, hot mama. Miss you. I'm just throwing that one up there so everybody sees it. I didn't make that up. Thanks, Elise. Love ya. Let's see. What research/resources do you recommend for a skeptic?
Ina May's Guide to Childbirth was my go-to, and I know that she references a lot of good what would I call I don't want to say clinical studies, but kind of that level of. She has tons of data in that book that gives you sources back to things you could credit on the internet. So I just think that's a great book to read if you're considering it, and then to have the resources in your toolkit.
That's my favorite one. And then, of course, The Business of Being Born is such a good documentary. And I feel like that one is really good for dads that aren't so sure. That one seemed when I showed Thomas that one, he was like, okay, yeah, 100%. This is it. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm looking through the questions one last time to see if there are any that we didn't kind of answer already. But yeah, I think we got it. I think we did it all.
Woohoo! Thanks, guys. That was so fun.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much, number one, for just being on the show in the first place. But number two, for coming back on and doing this Q&A. I feel like this, showing people, hey, this is fine, this is normal, and this was my experience. It could be yours too.
Yes.
Is the best way to get the information out there and get people excited.
Yeah. And I know Caitlin would say the same thing. If you have questions, just DM us. I'm happy to. Yep. Say hi. Look at our totally normal kids. My last was born at home, and just ask questions, and we're here to be a resource to you.
That's right. Oh, thank you so much, Jasmin. And thank you guys so much for coming on and listening.